here with Laura Serafino, the assistant sports performance coach at Arizona State. I'm just going to say SU this whole time. Laura, how are you doing? With the start of the season right now?
I'm good, Gavin. The start of the season, always a little bit more of a hectic time, especially coming
Yeah,
out of the summer when things are a little bit slower. So everyone getting back into the swing of things, but things are going good.
yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're assistant sports performance coach at ASU, and you work with the women's soccer team and both, the men's and women's golf teams at ASU.
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell me, I know what an athletic trainer is, but I'm not familiar with your title. So tell me what, a sports performance coach exactly is.
So essentially, we work in the weight room. We work on getting our athletes stronger, faster, more powerful. We work on injury prevention. We work on maintenance. We work very closely, actually, with athletic trainers for return to play protocols. Essentially, we just try and make whatever team we're working with, the athlete, the best athlete to their ability, so that way they can excel at their sport. So less about their sport and field on the golf course,
Mhm.
the court, wherever, and we focus on the weight room.
Yeah. So what are some of your major responsibilities as a college sports performance coach, working with student athletes?
So obviously the main one is giving them workouts and periodizing their programs. So making sure that they stay strong, powerful, athletic throughout their season. That's the main one. But as a sports performance coach, we do wear a lot of hats. We see our athletes probably the most out of a lot of the other coaches. And with that privilege, the athletes do come talk to us a little bit. So we kind of act as their psychologists sometimes. Someone to turn to about their sport, personal life, athletic career, just like an outside perspective. We help with return to play protocols. So, for instance, if an athlete gets hurt and they're clear to start training again, we build them back up right from the bottom. We work closely with the athletic trainer who is responsible for putting together their rehab program, and we work on the aspects of where we can get them stronger. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do. I have game day responsibilities for soccer. I'll warm them up, keep them warm throughout the practice, throughout the game, and then at the end of the game, do a little bit of a cool down with them. And again, each sport is different. It just depends what sport you work with. Game day responsibilities. Some teams have their strength coaches travel. If there's more of a need for some strength training when you're on the road, like basketball and hockey, they have their strength coaches travel. Um, just if it's going to be a long road trip, strength coaches will travel and get workouts in on the road, rehab it on the road, warm up, cool down on the road, stuff like that. So we do wear a lot of hats. We're kind of used wherever we're needed.
Mhm. So I'm generally interested. What does the summer look like for you as a, sports performance coach? I'm sure right now, with the fall season beginning, that's your, big time when, players return to campus and all that. But what does, like your June, July, beginning of August look like for you? And do you get much of a break in the summer, or it's mostly the same for you?
Yeah, so every school is a little bit different, but for the most part in the
Mhm.
summer, our hours are tremendously decreased. So we'll come in, the gym will be open from 7 till about 1. And depending on how many teams are in and how many athletes are going to be around in the summer, there's a couple ways that we run the weight room. So the way we do it is we have each team in their own time slot if a lot of players from each team will be around. So for instance, 7 a.m. will be wrestling, 8 a.m. might be soccer, 9 a.m. might be gymnastics, 10 a.m. might be men's basketball, 11 a.m. might be women's basketball. And that's if a big chunk of the team will be around in the summer. Another way we do it is it'll be open hours from 7 to 12. So this usually occurs in May, right after seasons are done, exam period, athletes are going home, they want to go home for a little bit. The weight room will just be an open weight room from 7 till 12. Come in,
Mhm.
get your lift in. It's not a formal lift. A lot of the times because there's dead periods, NCAA regulations where we can't be coaching at certain times, but we have to provide um, facility and safety and guidance for the athletes that do want to lift. So I'd say May is a lot more laid back. June, July is when the off-season training happens, where every team will get their own time slot. And we're typically done by 12, 1 in the afternoon. It's a lot less of a workload, but I would say the training is probably the most intense because there's no competition, there's no games. So athletes can really get after it.
So I know every day is, different for you, yesterday wasn't the same as today, but what does a typical day look like for you, or just What are some of your daily tasks and responsibilities with the teams you work with?
Yeah, so my mornings are pretty much taken up by soccer. I have to go warm the team up at 8:30, then they come in for their lift. So my big morning chunk from about 8:30 to 11:30, 12 o'clock is usually focused around soccer. In the middle of the day, I do a little bit of programming. I write my notes, what happened throughout the day, if I did any individual training with anybody. Some athletes do like to come in and they're saying, hey, Coach Laura, I want to get a little bit faster. Can we do extra speed trainings or can you give me some workouts? So I'll just make notes of that. If I have any programming to do, it'll be done in the middle part of the day. And then usually my golf teams, depending on what day it is, they'll be in the afternoon. Sometimes both of them, sometimes just one, sometimes none. So depending on the day, that's kind of what my day looks like. And then usually in that middle chunk, that's when I'll get my workout into before the afternoon teams. And then if any of my colleagues need help with their teams, if they're doing testing or a new phase and they just need more eyes on the floor, I'll 100% go help my colleagues with their teams if they need help as well.
So what exercises do you focus on with the golf team? The standard, exercises for a golfer usually are like, working on balance, stability, flexibility, things like that. But what do you focus on mostly with the golf teams?
Yeah, so with the golf teams, what's special about these golf teams is I try to individualize everybody's program because there's not a lot of players on the team. The women have 6 and the men have around 10. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so as much as balance and coordination and stability is important, I have found that strength and power are equally important. So
Okay.
we do the big block, meat and potatoes lift. We'll trap our deadlift them, we'll squat them, we'll bench press, chin ups, pull ups.
Mhm.
We'll do all those lifts in a different variation depending on what the actual athlete needs and what they're capable of, what their mobility allows them to do.
Mhm.
But I'm a firm believer in a strong athlete is a healthy athlete. So, for example, one athlete might be able to back squat, but another athlete might not be able to back squat, but we can front squat them or we can goblet squat them. So, pay attention to the athlete and really utilizing what their mobility allows me to do for them. But I am a firm believer in building strength. So we will do all the big block lifting within reason and within adapting to what they're able to do.
Yeah. So you just answered my next question, but why do you think strength training is important to a golfer, and how important do you think it is? Do you think it's the most important thing a golfer can work on? Do you think there's other exercises that are more important for a golfer?
Um, I think there are many exercises that are important for a golfer. Strength also obviously being one of the important ones. But what's cool about strength builds into power. So if you have a really good foundational strength base, your ability to produce and train and create power substantially increases. So I think strength exercises are important to keep it to build power for a golf athlete, which is essentially power. The sport of golf is power. Hit the ball, far, hard, get it as far as you can go. You need a really powerful body to have that swing, and also health. Maintain your health. Uh, a good golfer is a healthy golfer, right? Someone who can play the longevity of their season, that doesn't get hurt, that doesn't have these bumps and bruises. The stronger they are, and the better trained they are, the better success they will have in staying healthy. And if they're healthy, they can swing, they can hit, they can walk the course, and have a very successful season.
Yeah. So you said maintaining your health. So I know working out is important, but how important is it to take, a rest and recovery day regularly, especially with all the student athletes you work with, hopefully they're not working out 7 days a week. So, working out's important, but also how important is, rest and recovery.
Oh, rest is super important. So what's cool is a lot of my golfers will want to come in 5 times a week, 6 times a week. And with that, just because they come in to see me 5, 6 times, they're not necessarily lifting every day, right? We'll maybe do a strength one day, power one day. We'll do mobility and recovery another day. So I'm building in their recovery and mobility with me instead of making them lift crazy, right? So it's kind of like an accountability, rest and recovery when they come in to see me. So I'm making sure that they're doing the proper mobility exercises, the proper recovery exercises. But my athletes know at this level, athletes are pretty aware of how important recovery and rest is. So I have to give the 2 golf teams credit here that they're when it's time to take a rest day, like they respect the rest day and they'll take it seriously. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I was curious about this. Do the coaches have a plan that you need to stick to with their teams, or do you have the freedom to, individualized, workouts for the players that you work with. So like, do the coaches have a plan that you need to stick to, or is it up to you to, conduct exercises and workouts the best you see fit?
So I'm very fortunate. The two head coaches that I work with, Missy, who you spoke to, and Matt
Mhm,
Thurman for the men's side, have
mhm,
given me free reign to train their athletes as I see fit.
mhm,
I am TPI certified, which is a golf specific sports performance certification. So I do speak with them at the beginning of the year, each of them, about what they want their teams to accomplish throughout the season. And
mhm.
then I program as I see fit. We're fortunate that we work with a lot of good medical professionals, chiropractors, athletic trainers, and I have a very good working relationship with both of them. So they'll do their assessments and they'll say, hey, this athlete needs this, this, and this. And this athlete needs this, this, and this. And I will take their input on maybe mobility, maybe some deficiencies that they see, and I'll input it into their strength program. But as for a plan, I kind of make their lifting progressions and their lifting plan. And I have a very good communication relationship with both of the coaches, and I'll message them after every lift, talk to them after every lift, and be like, hey, this is what went on today. This is what went well. This person, needs a little bit of this, but they kind of give me free reign to train them as I see fit, which has been they've been awesome. The best coaches to work with.
What exercises do the golf teams work on that the soccer teams don't work on, and vice versa? What do the soccer teams work on that the golf teams don't work on?
Yeah, so there aren't in sports performance, there isn't a lot of differentiation on movements. So every athlete, doesn't matter what sport you play, golf, soccer, hockey, basketball, every athlete needs to know how to squat. Every athlete needs to know how to hinge, single leg patterns, RDLs, um, flex, extend every joint in their body, right? So my philosophy is make very good movers overall. So do I squat my soccer players? Yes, maybe with my soccer players, I do a little bit more single leg stuff because they're running on the pitch a lot. But maybe with my golfers, I do a little bit more anti-rotation core stuff because they're using their core a lot more than soccer is. I probably do a lot more single leg jumps with soccer than I would with golf, but it's also important for golfers to have single leg stability too. So the exercises aren't necessarily, the premise of the exercises aren't necessarily different. Definitely the reps and sets are, definitely the conditioning is by far. But I would say to be a well-rounded athlete, any sport needs to be able to do your key building block movements, right? Squat, hinge, push, press, pull. Everybody needs to do it. Just how you tweak it is slightly different for each team, and how many reps you provide or you ask them to do, and how heavy you go probably is a little bit different for each team.
So yeah, the average person, probably not good enough to be a Division 1, athlete or up to that level. So what do you think are some, of the best exercises just your average, person, your average golfer can do to improve their game, or just, just in general, just to improve, their health, and just exercises they can do generally?
Yeah, I would say any exercise that gets you stronger. A great one
Mhm,
is trap bar deadlift. Keeps you in the midline. You're not leaning too far forward. It targets your glutes, quads, hamstrings, shoulders, back, targets everything. So I think trap bar deadlift is a great one. Any posterior chain stuff. So posterior chain is the back of your body. So anything for your glutes, anything for your hamstrings, anything for your back, your lats, all that's fantastic for golfers. And obviously any rotation and anti-rotation stuff. So rotation, anything where you're actively rotating. And anti-rotation is where you're stopping yourself from rotating. So like a pow press, any kind of core exercises are excellent for golfers as well.
yeah. So now we'll get into learning more about yourself. You grew up in Toronto, Canada. What was it like for you growing up in Canada? And was working out and exercising, that you focus on now, was that important to you, as an athlete growing up, or not really?
Yeah, so back in the day when I was an athlete a long time
Mhm,
ago, the weight room wasn't as utilized as it is now. So I played soccer. That
mhm,
was my main sport. I played volleyball, I swam. And very rarely did I go in the weight room. It just didn't exist much back then, and especially in Canada. My first real experience with lifting weights was when I got to college. But I would say my experience with soccer in Canada was awesome, other than it being cold in the winter. And I remember
mhm.
couple practices on the turf field, our warm up was shoveling the snow off the turf field so we can practice outside.
Mhm.
You think it's a joke, but we really did that. We actually did that. Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was definitely made a lot of memories growing up playing sports. It was great. But yeah, if there's one thing I wish the weight room was more prevalent back in the day for soccer players as it is now.
So tell me what it was like for you growing up. You know, you were a soccer player, so tell me your experiences, growing up, playing soccer for you.
So my dad and I traveled everywhere because it was a rep soccer team, so club soccer. We traveled all across Canada to play tournaments, traveled all across the US to play tournaments. Usually we drove, so my dad and I got a lot of bonding time. But yeah, that's your teammates are the friends that you become the closest with. You go through turmoils, tribulations, successes, you win, you lose. You hold each other accountable, you hold each other to different standards, you're yelling at each other, you're, hey, passing the ball, this needs to be better. So you create a lot of bonds with your teammates. And I'm still friends with these girls today. And I would say most of my great childhood memories are with my soccer teammates. You just have a different bond with your teammates.
So after growing up in Canada, you then played Division 1 soccer at the Citadel in South Carolina.
Mhm.
Um, so after growing up in Canada, how did you end up attending the Citadel? And were there any other schools you were looking at attending, or were you pretty much set on that school?
So it was a funny story for that school. I went to a lot of showcase tournaments. The way you got recruited back then is a little bit different than now. Coaches relied heavily on showcase tournaments because social media and video and email wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So, our team would go to showcase tournaments, and we went to this one tournament where this one coach, the assistant coach, she was looking for a goalie specifically. And all the parents of our team were handing out like player profile pamphlets. That's how back in the day it was. We had player profile paper pamphlets, handing them out to all the coaches. And the one coach was like, hey, you have a goalie, like, where is she? So whatever, she's over there. They came to watch me. She goes, yo, we're gonna give her name to the head coach. Rewind like a couple of weeks before that, the head coach knew my specific goalie coach. And the head coach had asked my goalie coach, so my goalie coach and my head coach, two different people. So had asked my goalie coach, do you know any goalies that could play at the D1 level? My goalie coach is, yes, Laura Serafino, gave him my name. So when the assistant coach went back and said, hey, I saw a goalie play, she's really good, this is who it is, and they said Laura Serafino, he was like, is this the same Laura Serafino that my friend told me about? So it was kind of like a perfect storm of they saw me and my name was given forward and they didn't know. It just happened that way, right? So that's how I got recruited there, and I went for my visit and I loved it, and I said, let's go. As for other schools, there was Iowa, a school in Iowa that was, I was talking to for a little bit, Vermont a little bit, nothing really materialized. The Citadel was the only, like, you're going to come as a freshman, you're going to play. And it was great. So it was kind of like a perfect storm. It was almost meant to be, kind of meant to be, I guess.
Yeah, so you were a goalie, which is an interesting position. So what got you interested in becoming a goalie, and what did you like and dislike about being a goalie?
Yeah, so I wasn't always a goalie. I was a central holding midfielder defender.
Okay.
And then years ago, I think when I was 13 or 14, our goalie got hurt. And then everybody on the team had to play a game in net because we didn't have a backup goalie. And then one of the games was my turn, and I played really well. And I said, hey, I actually really like playing this position. And then that was it. I was a goalie. I like it because there's a lot of pressure, right?
Okay.
You can't make a mistake. You make a mistake, the ball's in the back of the net. So the pressure to not make a mistake is higher than I would say most other positions. Every other position, right? You have someone that's behind you that can, save you. If the forward makes a mistake, you got your central midfielders. If they make a mistake, you got your defenders. If they make a mistake, you still got your goalie, right? You have all these lines of defenses. I make a mistake, back of the net. So that's kind of what was intriguing. What I didn't like is, you can't score a goal. you're back there, and the chances of you scoring a goal are next to nothing. So that kind of was like, meh. But no, being a goalie was really rewarding. I loved it. You're a natural leader on the field. You kind of have to direct traffic a lot. And yeah, those are kind of the things that kept me attracted to being a goalie.
Yeah, you said you didn't like not being able to score, but I'm sure, you weren't jealous of your teammates having to run up and down the field for 90 minutes plus?
Yeah, that's facts. That was hard, but goalie training is a little bit different. You got to get down, get up, get down, get up. Right?
Okay.
Different kind of hard. Different kind of hard.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. Read out on the Citadel. It's one of the six senior military colleges in the United States.
Yep.
So what was it like to attend one of the six senior military colleges in the United States? And can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So definitely when I went on my visit, my first reaction was so they told us we had to cut our hair. So believe it or not, my hair was as short as your hair my freshman year. We had all had to cut it. So when they told me this before, like on my visit, I looked at my dad and I was like, Dad, I don't know if I could do this, man. Like, I don't know if I can cut my hair. My dad looked at me and he's like, Laura, you're gonna give up, an experience of a lifetime because you have to cut your hair for a year. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm in. So yeah, we all had to cut our hair. All the females had to cut your hair your freshman year. Um, it's called your knob year. You get initiated all year long. You get yelled at. You have all these military things to do. You have to do rifle drill. You got to do morning room inspections. You got to wear a uniform. You got to say sir, yes sir. All the generic military stuff. It was a huge learning curve for me because the military had never been really a focus point in my life. None of my family's military, not my mom, not my dad. So it was a huge learning curve to learn all the terminology, to learn everything about like platoons, battalions, companies, the military alphabet, like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, all that kind of stuff. So it was a big learning curve. I would make the same decision that I made. I would decide to go again. It was hard. It was tough. They teach you leadership skills. They teach you, what you're made out of. It was a great experience, a wonderful experience. And not only that, you got to play at, high level soccer for 4 years. So it was good. And why it was challenging because not only did you have to do, your strength and conditioning sessions. I had goalie practice, regular practice, film videos, meetings. You had all these things, but then you had to go to rifle drill, but then you had to go to parade, then you had to go to morning room inspections, then you had to go to Saturday morning inspections. So the life of a cadet already was really, really hard. And then separately, the life of a Division I athlete is already really, really hard. And you put them together and you have doubly hard, but it definitely teaches you about yourself. It teaches you what you can handle. And it makes you come out a better person. And you really learn about yourself being put in those difficult environments and situations.
It's really impressive. So then after playing college soccer, you coached soccer for the Ontario Player Development League. Can you tell me about this league and what did you learn from this experience?
Yeah, so essentially, it'd be called OPDL just for short. It's like a funnel to the Canadian program, right? So you coach the players that maybe eventually they're going to get selected for Team Ontario, and then from those players they get selected for Team Canada. So you go through a rigorous coaching training. So I have my National B soccer coaching license, and then basically I was on the field 5 days a week coaching multiple teams. We had like a coaching staff, so it was me and 3 or 4 other coaches where we coached 4 or 5 different women's teams, all at the different age groups, and we would be the core coaches. I'm still really good friends with them to this day, and we created something special. Now the girls, the main team that we coached, they were born in 05. They're all freshmen in college now, so that's pretty cool to see all the girls that you coached from when they were 8 years old. They're now 18 and they're all at like big time Division I programs. So that's really awesome to see. I also focus a lot of my time on the goalies. Obviously, I was a goalie. And our 2 goalies from that one specific team are at great schools right now, and they're killing it where they are, which is awesome.
Then you were also the head strength coach at Speed Hockey Development for 4 years in Canada. Can you tell me about that and how did this come about? And also, what did you like about this experience?
Yeah, so it wasn't only me. So there was me and another gentleman. We kind of both of us ran the gym part of it, and then there was also an on ice component of it. I didn't play hockey, so the hockey part of it wasn't my forte. So yeah, the way that worked is you'd have hockey players of all ages, from kids all the way to NHL, come in for extra training, and it was valuable because I would most of the time do the gym stuff, and then they would go and do on ice workouts. So it'd be 2 for 1. The hockey school was really cool because they were affiliated, they partnered with a school. So it was called the High Performer Program. So what it was was in the morning, the kids would come to us from 8 to 12, and they would have an hour gym session, an hour on ice session, an hour nutrition lecture, and then an hour hockey lecture. So it would be all these lectures. And then at 12 o'clock, they would have lunch, and then they'd get driven to school, and then they'd be at school from 1 to 5 or 1 to 4. So it was like a bridge program or an affiliate program for very serious hockey players that were trying to get scholarships, play professional, et cetera, et cetera. So we did that. And then we had a group. So we had the morning HPP group, and then we had the afternoon HP group, which essentially was the same thing, just flipped. Yeah, so it was me and another gentleman. We ran it together from September to June when school was in session in Canada. And then in the summertime, when everybody was off, college kids, high school kids, young kids, NHL players, we would have small groups, a group at 6 a.m., a group at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., all the way till about 3 or 4. Small groups of 6, usually that was the sweet spot where they would all have their own programs to get better at hockey. And that would also entail an hour on ice and an hour gym. And then that's what they would get. And they would come, it would be a 5-day-a-week program. Some of them opted for 3, some of them did 4. But for the most part, if you were there for summer training, May, June, and July, you were there 5 days a week, grinding. And these kids put in the work, and they're awesome, awesome kids to work with.
So is hockey as big as it seems in Canada? I know, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's box lacrosse is the sport of Canada, but is hockey as big as it seems, or not really?
Yeah, so technically lacrosse is our national sport, technically. Yeah. But I would say hockey is definitely number 1 sport. Soccer is pretty close, second,
Okay.
for popularity, but definitely hockey and soccer are the 2 big time sports in Canada. Golf's getting there, golf's not there yet, but it's getting there. But yeah, definitely those 2 sports in Canada.
Yeah. So now you've been the assistant sports performance coach at ASU for the past 5 years. So how did you end up at ASU after your previous experiences? And how has the past 5 years at ASU been for you?
So past 5 years at ASU has been awesome. I have the best coworkers, the best bosses, Leanne Blinn, Rich Wenner. They're pretty well-known names in the community of strength and conditioning. Awesome bosses to work for. And how did I get here? So my old strength coach from the Citadel, who is a friend, mentor and a friend to me, is named Donnell Boucher, amazing guy. He knew my current boss, Leanne Blinn. So they were friends. Now, when I was in Canada, Donnell, he knew that I wanted to be a college strength coach as opposed to just a hockey, like a private strength coach. So I did an internship with him in the springtime of 2019. So January, February, March, April, I went back to the Citadel to do an internship with him. I went home. He calls me, I don't know, a month later, saying that Leanne had asked him if he knew anybody that would be willing to do a graduate assistant position at ASU. Now, a sidebar graduate assistant position is someone who's actively doing a master's program, but also certified as a strength coach to work with teams and work in the weight room. So that was the position at first. So Donnell said, matter of fact, actually, this position was only supposed to be working with soccer primarily for the first 2 years. He said, matter of fact, I know a soccer player came here, played for me. She's a strength coach. She's great. Have her apply. I applied. I got the GA. And then 2 years later, they really liked what I was doing. And they offered me a full-time job along with the women's golf. And then I did a year with the women's team. They were really happy. And then I got the men's team after that.
That's my final 2 questions. I was interested, who has been the most impressive athlete you have got to work with at ASU, or if it's not one athlete, just who are a few impressive athletes you've got to work with?
Yeah, I'd have to say the skill level at ASU is just incredible. I can't really attribute one athlete. There's so many of them. Yeah, there's just all the athletes that come into the weight room just provide work at a work rate that's just so impressive, and in
Or
their
you can just mention some athletes who are playing right now who we should look out for.
Yeah, so in the golf world, definitely Lynn Grant, Lexi Fosterling, Ali Finale. Those are 3 I worked with personally. On the soccer side, You got a couple professional soccer players, Ava Van Dersen, you got Alexia Delgado. One's in Mexico, one's in Germany now. Nicole Douglas, she plays for the NWSL. So there's just a lot of talent. And there's a lot more coming down the pipe. A lot more girls and guys coming down the pipe, especially in the golf world, that I've been very, very fortunate to be able to work with, which is
Yeah.
great.
My final question is, what do you enjoy most about being a sports performance coach, who gets to work with student athletes at ASU?
Um, Definitely seeing the progression from, let's say, them reaching their goals and reaching, abilities that they didn't know they could possess. For example, back squatting 200 pounds, or getting substantially stronger, or being able to jump a little bit further, and seeing that translate on the pitch or the golf course, when they're like, hey, I walked an entire 36 holes and I wasn't tired and I wasn't sore and I was hitting the ball perfectly. That feels great as a coach. When they're running 90 minutes on the field and I was not tired, 89 of the minutes I was great. That's absolutely, that's the best thing you can hear as a strength coach. And then just building those relationships with those athletes coming in, not even talking about strength and conditioning or their sport, just being around them as people, and seeing who they grow up to be, and who they are now. And just seeing their dreams and their goals, seeing them slowly accomplish them and work towards them, and then them coming back even after they've graduated, and just sharing their experiences with you is one of the best things it can't even be described, one of the best things you could feel.
Mhm.